Recording in progress, yes. And thank you guys for this opportunity to just really share. I think what's going to be a great resource with you all. According to this subject matter, we've got some phenomenal people that are going to moderate and participate in several different ways. This is intended to be a resource for you as a youth worker and an alumnus of this program. There may be some folks that might join that are not alumni of this program of the Volunteer Leadership Initiative, and that is totally fine. Everybody's welcome. What I like to always do is start out with giving some ground rules. We ask that everyone keep their audio only muted, but if at all possible, keep your video unmuted. I'm sorry, audio muted unless you're speaking. Video unmuted at all times for the sake of transparency, healthy engagement, and to be able to discern nonverbal communication, all right? If your background screen has anything that would be dishonoring to God, we ask that you would blur it and or change your screen. Keep your comments and your questions to less than a minute if at all possible. Please use the chat for positive reactions, resources, affirmations, and even contact information. If you are in transit, we ask that you do not use the chat at all. Please keep your eyes on the road and or pull over and park. Either case, DVULI is not responsible for any harm calls to you while you are in transit and on this call, all right? We are not going to grant AI permissions. We will send a copy of this link, of the conversation link to you. And again, for those that are not alumni of the Deval Servant Leadership Initiative, we welcome you here as well. Would like to do something really quickly here before we introduce our moderators and guests. We just want to go around the room and make sure that we know who is on the call. If you wouldn't mind, when I call your name, give us your full name, your DVULI city, and what your organization name is. Just those three things and nothing more. I'm going to start with Will Cumby.
Man, you gave the prompt so quickly. You said name,
organization, and city.
Okay, there we go. All right. Will Cumby. I serve at the Fountain of Praise in Houston, Texas, and 2010 alumni.
Perfect.
Okay, good.
All right, Katie. Not Katie Van Timmer. That's a different introduction. Yep. Kazinta.
You're still muted, Katie.
Hi, I'm so sorry. My baby is screaming in the background, but Katie, and I'm with the city mission. And what was the last one?
In Ohio.
Yeah, Ohio.
23. All right, good stuff. Jay Curry, New York.
Jason Curry, New York City, Big Apple basketball.
Perfect. Jay Martinez.
Jay Martinez, Miami, and organization Hope for Miami.
Yes, sir. Jeffrey Thompson.
Jeff Thompson, 1012 Sports, 2022 DC chapter.
Awesome. All right, Scott Graff.
He's on a phone call and put in the chat. He'll be joining.
All right, Anthony Hall. All right, moving on, Anthony. Anthony Richardson.
Anthony Richardson, Inside the Lines Training Incorporated, Louisville, Kentucky. I graduate on April the 25th of 2025 from DVULI.
Yep. Vivian Washington. All right, Vivian, we'll get you later. Jonathan Plummer is in transit, I believe, as well. All right, we're going to jump into the call. I do want to acknowledge a few people before we move right in. Stephanie Donovan, my entrusted colleague, is producer, and looking forward to seeing her take great notes and make sure you guys get everything. I'm just joking. Katie Van Timmeren, who is my colleague at the home office as well in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Valerie Wims, one of our DVULI liaisons, I'd say alumni. And also the esteemed Atisha Bankston, who is former city coordinator, Cleveland, Ohio as well, esteemed colleague. Also excited to introduce Christopher Bates. Christopher Bates is in Los Angeles, California, or somewhere there in Southern California. I don't know where Chris might be right now. This man is global. And so Chris, I'll let him give you his whole kind of trajectory, but more importantly than that, an Olympic medalist winner, and you'll have to tell him if it's gold, bronze, or silver in terms of your coaching, and happy to have you on as a special voice as well. And finally, your moderators for today are Erin Dormer and Nobles Darby from Cleveland, Ohio, class of 2023. I've also asked someone who is an author of a new book that just released out of St. Louis, Missouri. Latasha Lankerston, will give you a chance also to not only plug the book, but share a little bit about what you and your daughter have put together in terms of a resource for those that are doing sports ministry as well. I mean, there's just some amazing people on this call. I feel like I'm forgetting people, but I'm trying to make sure everybody gets covered. And so I'm happy to have you all here. I'm going to shut up and turn it over to Nobles and Erin. And if I did forget anybody, charge it to my lack of memory, okay? Not my heart. Erin and Nobles, take it away.
All right, awesome. Gerald, thank you for the flight instructions. Like Jason said, it definitely felt like we were about to take off for another city, but we certainly hope this will be a meaningful dialogue and conversation to all of us as the DVULI family. So thank you to Gerald and the DVULI family for just allowing Erin and I to participate. Brief introduction about myself, and then I want to dive into the conversation that we're going to have today, which I hope will be enriching and of value to you. So DVULI alumni class of 23, I serve as our Metro Cleveland director for Fellowship of Christian Athletes, which is a global sports ministry organization. And I'm also blessed to serve as chaplain to both the Cleveland Browns and the Cleveland Cavaliers. And so there's two stats here that I have to really dive into the conversation today, which I'll follow up with a question to have dialogue from the group. So when we think about youth and athletics, one of the things that is key, especially for me in my work, and I'm sure others of you can attest as well, discipleship also has to run along that same track as well. So as we're engaging youth in athletics, we also have an opportunity to plant the seed of the gospel in terms of influencing their athletic careers and just their lives in general. But there's two stats that I found that are very alarming as we think about the work we do with youth in athletics. The first one being 70% of kids currently quit youth sports by the age of 13. All right, so 70% of kids quit youth sports by the age of 13. And then as a stat to contrast with that, by the age of 13, what most people believe is what they will die believing. And by the age of 19, someone's chances of receiving salvation drops drastically to less than 6%. So what we can see from youth and athletics and then this discipleship track, we have a very limited window to plant the seed of evangelism that ultimately will grow into discipleship. So we have to reach these kids younger in athletics with the gospel. And so to start us off with a question before Erin comes in, I just want to ask the group today, how does this stat, right, knowing the amount of kids that are falling away from sports by the age of 13, knowing the amount of kids that are believing what they believe, and then by 19, their chances of salvation drops drastically. How do these stats inform the work that you do with youth? We'd love to hear from everyone or whoever wants to share around this topic today. So again, the question is, how does this stat, or how do these stats, knowing there's a massive falling away, 7 out of 10 kids are stepping away from youth sports by the age of 13, which also has a direct impact to them receiving salvation. How does that influence the work with the youth that you do?
That for me is alarming because I didn't realize that, and I've been coaching youth sports since 2012 ish. That's tough to hear, and my immediate thought was I got to do better with my approach, and kind of maybe realigning what's important and what they can pull out of sports versus just being great at said sport.
Yeah, that's good, Anthony. So it sounds like it's a little bit of a wake-up call in your approach. That's good. Anthony Hall, it looks like you off mute.
Yes, sir. Actually, with that, it was alarming to me too, because with the age that you said, 13, because so 13 is before they even reach high school, and so within that is I also coach high school sports as well, and so when it's gonna change my approach in the essence of is that reaching them before they get to high school. So reaching them and their families. I'm all about totality and things. And so when you're at that age before 13, the parents have a big influence on if those kids are going to even be around you, playing for your team, staying on your team, making the practices and those opportunities to plant those seeds. So when I go and I do my approach, it's going to be not just for that youth, but for their family, so that I can continue to have them all the way beyond the age of 13.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Making sure that seed of the gospel follows them and those they're in community with as well. That's big. It's big. Anyone else before we shift to Erin? Would love to hear some additional dialogue if someone has some thoughts. Looks like Latasha has her hand raised.
Yeah, I'm thinking about just making sure first the information is staggering. It's alarming. But I'm just thinking about the importance of having a support team for them to step into spaces beyond like what our organization may provide. So if we focus on sports and character building, to also look for little pockets of spaces to have one-on-one time, not just that group time, to really check in and see how they're doing, what things look like maybe at sports, is there anything at home or whatever they may want to share, just to show that the interest is beyond what we're doing at our facility.
Right.
To offer opportunities for them to like have those deeper conversations if they desire to.
That's good. That's good. Latasha, hearing you say that made me think about another stat that I didn't initially share, but I think this would be important to mention as well. So when we think about planting the seed of the gospel, as Anthony Hall just shared, and making sure that it follows the kid in an early age and also impacts those that they're in community with, the Barna Group recently came out with a study that said 51% of churchgoers have never heard the term the Great Commission. And so if we think about the United States church, you cut that church down the middle, over half of those congregants have no idea that they've been called to make disciples that make disciples. So when we think about that approach, or when we think about that stat and we think about the work, that should directly have an immediate impact in our work with youth and athletics as well, to know they may even be a part of a church community that is not even emphasizing the need for evangelism and discipleship. So I felt that important to share as well. Was there someone else that raised their hand or put something in the chat? I want to make sure we grab you. If not, I'm going to go ahead and toss it over to my fellow moderator, Erin Dormer.
Hey everyone, thanks Nobles. So want to welcome anybody that's just hopping on. My name is Erin Dormer, and I have the privilege of serving as the City Life Director under Greater Cleveland Youth for Christ here in Cleveland. And so I have the privilege of running a youth center on Cleveland's west side. And so one of our big ways we draw students in is sports. So we have a gym, we have soccer, basketball, volleyball, any means necessary for kids to just have an outlet. But Nobles, that question about the Great Commission, I think that leads into my next question that we have prepared was, what are some barriers that you all have encountered, and what steps are you taking to address them to kind of help battle this staggering statistic that Nobles has shared? I know we've encountered some, but before I share, I would just like to give the floor for you guys first. If not, I can share. I think for me, with my students, just like having sports, I definitely live in. So Cleveland, in the past few years has been known as, we have one of the top youth poverty rates of all times. And so they don't have a lot of resources around. And the area I serve, Clarkville neighborhood, I feel like we're over-resourced. But one way is with sports. And so one is just having access. And that's why we have the center there, location. But then that leads to transportation issues. We serve students as far as east, 30 minutes from our center, and as far as west, about 10, 15 minutes. So we get kids from all over. So transportation has been a barrier. Time management has been a barrier for our students. Just having the time to come, having the time and access to be allowed to be participating in sports. Anybody else have any issues like those or any barriers like that, Gerald?
Yeah, I'm gonna jump in because while that is not my direct ministry, I still volunteer at my church with our youth ministry there. But recently I was in another city and went and visited a high school, and walked into the locker room where the football team was convening to practice. And lockers had doors that could not lock and even shut. The water was in the showers did not work at all for kids to shower. The school system had said, okay, we were not going to even fund the need to fix the plumbing because of other resource allocations. So I can only imagine what that might be like in many urban contexts where if in fact the resources haven't been allocated to ensure that the kids have the proper equipment to even play on. I mean, I'm not even talking about lavish stuff. I'm just talking about like basically water should be working where kids can take a shower, you know? And so if that's an issue for anybody else, I mean, how do you get through that? Especially when the school system is saying, okay, look, well, we need to allocate funds other places, you know, and even so much, you know, with potential funding streams, like, okay, well, if you're getting money for that, well, we're going to take that money and allocate it to something else anyway. You know, so it's just kind of bizarre to me that you find in many urban contexts, what kids can just, I mean, could use for just basic equipment. Again, I'm not talking about like state-of-the-art stuff, just the basics. Yeah.
We have been fortunate. We do partner with a couple of rec centers in my area, and they have been able, because we are a nonprofit, it's harder for our faith-based, so it's harder for us sometimes to get grants, right? But because of our partners that we partner with, they're the ones that they're like, hey, if we partner together, you know, we can help maybe get some grants to help fund some of that, you know, sporting equipment that we need, or we have donors and things like that. But it's all about the showing the need. Oh, Anthony Richardson, you had your hand up.
Yes, I was going to comment to Gerald's point. Like here in Louisville, we have 31 high schools, public high schools. I've coached at 5 of them. I've probably been in another 10. So the locker room perspective, majority of our high schools don't have working water, and that's kind of the standard, unfortunately. And there's a lot of things that not even could be used. It's a lot of things that we should have that we don't. That's not even a topic of discussion. So as coaches, we don't even you avoid that topic because there is no possible solution, if that makes sense. Like, you know what I mean? The school district ain't even talking about how do we make locker rooms better, to have showers, because God knows this is probably the only access to showering some may have. But those are not even concerns, to be honest. And again, been coaching since 2012 officially in middle schools and high schools, and this specifics has never been brought up. We talk about locker room or whatever in general. I mean, a lot of locker rooms are somebody's granddad or uncle decided to make lockers, and that's what we use. You know what I mean? That's what we use. And out of 75 kids on the team, we have 35 lockers. So you usually have a freshman and a sophomore sharing, and then when you become a junior senior, you get your own locker.
It's amazing what things we have to say we'll live with or deal with, right? For our kids' sake, just to give them an outlet and things like that. Did anybody else want to share anything in regards to any barriers or things or ways that we've overcome some barriers that we've had to deal with?
Can I hop in?
Please.
I agree with all these other barriers that have been mentioned already. In my experience, the verse that comes to my mind is the harvest is ripe, but the workers are few. And so from a standpoint of what can bring about immediate change that we could potentially influence, because like these other things that we're talking about, lockers and equipment and all of those things, some of those things might take time, but even if they do get moved, you know, through the process really fast, it's one thing to have the equipment, but it's another thing to have human resource to know what to do with the equipment, to know how to manage the equipment, to know how to disperse the equipment. When we have a human that cares, when we have a human in the room or in the space whose heart is broken about this and who has the availability and the support and some competency about all of the things that we have been exposed to through DeVos and our own personal ministry and life experiences, that makes the big difference. And so, you know, a part of the barrier in some regards is just like we're praying to the Lord for laborers that are in the context of coach and sports to come alongside of us, to enter these spaces. Because if you put a person in those spaces and they are around and they're able to be there and be embedded and integrated and all of those types of things, you know, which is probably, we could probably have testimony about some of those breakthroughs, you know. But that's like, I think that's the piece that's most critical. And then from there, like not putting the cart before the horse. And then from there, like, okay, we figure out equipment, we figure out facilities, because those are atrocious as well, as Gerald and everybody else has already alluded to. We could talk for the next 3 hours about just that aspect of how poor facilities are. But I'm just like, man, if we can just get these relationships tapped in, we will find a way. God will provide a way for these one-off situations or these smaller group situations to then kind of build and scale from. So, so I think we, you know, it might be helpful for us to continue thinking about how we raise the awareness and tell the story, as Nobles already said. I mean, those stats aren't alarming. They're alarming to me, but it's not a surprise. But the fact that there are still people among us who care about this work who don't know those stats, right? That's a part of the work that we've got to continue to do, right? And sound the alarm, you know, to highlight how important sports is beyond just, oh, it teaches you great life lessons and all that stuff, but how it actually legitimately is a tool for the kingdom work to be done. So
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Chris. Was there anybody else that wanted to share before we move on?
This is Anthony Hall. With that, I was gonna kind of combine some of the things that have been discussed on, because it also getting people, especially in the youth part of things, getting people to have the knowledge and the knowledge of it, just knowing. I've had so many times where when I was a youth coaching youth, I'd see a family just walking on the street. And I'd be like, ooh, does your kid play sports? Does your kids do this? Do they do that? You know, recruiting, you know, and giving them the knowledge and knowing that that's even something that's available for their kids, you know, because if we don't let people know and put it out there in not just a way of just like the gentleman just spoke on, of saying, oh, it's life lessons, but also kind of have faith put into those when you first let them know, then being able to bring them in. So now these kids, their expectations are not just, oh, I'm going to go and play a sport. Oh, I'm going to go and get to run around. No, I'm going to go and learn life lessons, but I'm also going to learn about my faith. I'm going to learn about God, like those type of things. And if we don't market that or put that out there, some people don't even know. So we lose those people that we could have gained without, you know, because we didn't speak on it or we didn't put it out into our community.
Absolutely. Thank you. Well, I think that kind of transitions into the next question we have, Nobles, that you have for the group.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love what Anthony just shared, because when you think about it, sports is just the platform or the vehicle that's being used in order to drive these kids towards the gospel. And so I think that's important. And then I love what Chris was sharing as well, because that segues nicely into this question I'm getting ready to ask to the group. But Chris talked about the harvest being right, but the laborers being few. I think when we're talking about youth and athletics, we have the youth on one side of the coin, but then we also have those who are working with youth that we have to be mindful of as well. I'll share a quick story before I ask this question to the group. Here in Cleveland, this was in December. It was our Senate League, which is the inner city sports commission of the city of Cleveland. And so they had their wrestling tournaments. Now there was two programs that were rivals, but there was a head coach of one team that had been consistently warned by referees all season about language, behavior he's demonstrating in front of his athletes, in front of visiting teams, so on and so forth. Well, a huge brawl ensued at this wrestling tournament, and it resulted in athletes on this coach's team fighting. And then the coach himself was fighting coaches, fist fighting, literally fighting coaches and parents from the other team. So if you see the video, like literally you see families like flooding out of these bleachers and literally fighting, fist fighting at a high school wrestling tournament. And so when we think about the work that we're doing with youth and athletics, it obviously touches the youth, but we also have to think about how are we influencing the people that are working with our children as well. How are we pouring into coaches? How are we investing into trainers? So it leads me to ask this question, and then I have a great resource I'll share as well. But when we think about this work, what kinds of curriculum or tools are you using to effectively minister or instruct in this area? So what does that look like for you in your context of ministry? We'd love to get some dialogue going around that. What tools, what resources, what curriculum can you share with the group that would be helpful?
Hey, this is Will Cumbie. I'm in Houston. I am not a coach or anything, but I do lead a devotional for athletes at a couple of high schools here in the city. And what I've learned or recognized is, one, I talk to the coaches on a regular basis. So beyond the times that I'm in there to speak to the team, but I'll talk to the coaches and ask them, like, what's the temperature of the team? What's going on in the locker room? What's going on in the classroom? What's happening on the campus? And I use that as fodder, or I use that as a springboard for whatever I'm discussing. Because the truth is, if we're only teaching what's interesting to us, we're missing our target market. I think it was Peter Drucker who said, what does your customer consider value? And so if we're not teaching to the values of those who we are teaching to, then it's just a really good speech that doesn't really affect the people that need to be hearing it.
That's great. I love that, William. And I think I saw someone else, but I want to respond to what you just shared because, you know, and I know I've fallen guilty of this, so I'll speak for myself. Sometimes I've gone into a school with FCA tools and curriculum and just assumed, hey, FCA can come in and save the issues of this program, right? But what I've learned, you know, after bumping my head enough times, is that none of our programs or curriculums are one size fits all. And so that's directly influenced now how I operate with coaches, whether it's at the pro level or at the high school level. A question that I ask, similar to what William shared, is, hey, what is the greatest void that this program has, and how can our organization help fill it? I think when you come in with a servant leadership type of mindset, it can it taps into the coach to give you really the cheat code as far as what can be to bring the most value to their program. So anyone else, I'd love to hear some more tools or resources or questions that you all are using as you're engaging with youth and athletics. We'll go with I'm a gentleman, so let's go Latasha and then Theron.
Yeah, as far as a tool I like to use is the YouVersion app. They have great like Bible plans for everything, different age brackets. It helps them also, the students keep track of where they are. As far as like with Bible readings, we had a group that had to go through the Proverbs. So it was a challenge to go through the book of Proverbs, take a Proverbs a day to read. For 30 days and then like repeat it and just, you know, so by being able to have that app and they can track it was motivating as well. Something we do on the premises is, I'm just thinking about the fight and everything that you were talking about. When people, especially like the parents as well, if you come into our facility, our gym, you have to shake hands with whoever's at the door, make eye contact, introduce yourself, like no sagging, we make it clear, don't use same language. So they're coming into an atmosphere where they know that a standard is already set. You don't come, you know what I'm saying? You don't come in any kind of way. And we found that that has worked. And when I tell you in St. Louis, we're in the hood of the hood, there's other hoods, there's multiple hoods in St. Louis. But when we tell them where we are, they're like, you guys in the hood of it. And so when they do come to our, location from different places, they're just like surprised of just the atmosphere because there's a precedence that's set at the beginning.
That's good. That's good. And Latasha, before we move off, Gerald asked you to share the title of your book and how we can get it as well.
It's called Young Athlete, sorry, Mental Toughness for Young Athletes. It's a playbook, and it's on Amazon. You can get the paperback or you can get the audio book, and it's also a great companion for the coaches, parents. We're really big on family, the kids having a support team. Like one person can't do it, but to have a group of people around them to step into their lives in different places, because one person doesn't know it all and can't do it all. So that's really, really important. So I will, yeah, drop the link in chat. I see someone say that. I'll do that. Thank you.
Awesome. And to note, then we'll go to Theron and then Jason after that. Stephanie is keeping a list of all resources that are mentioned. And she also shared if there are resources you have, please email them to her so she can make them available to the group after this call. So Theron.
Hey, guys, how you doing? Theron Cunningham in Louisville, Kentucky. One of the things that has been beneficial for me, over the years of working with students, especially when in athletics, we shifted to when I was coaching, especially in middle school, shifted to a paradigm that challenged students to grow not only personally, socially, but also spiritually, and aligned that expectation, and of course that when we had them with us. So standards were made according to scripture and according to the Christian faith, where sometimes it wasn't as explicit. So you know what I'm saying, this particular way that this rule that goes over our team and over our games or how we participate may not necessarily when it's introduced correlate to the scripture, but eventually it does. And so it fostered a community of personal development, and then leaning into and planting the seed towards how they can grow spiritually. There are books that I've read over the years that have really formed me. Um, I mean, secular literature, to go back to read the book To Serve with Love and how did you challenge students to overcome things. There's the book of the Cairo, the re-imaging of Pilgrim's Progress, that gave an urban understanding to that writing. Has been helpful, man, when it comes to literature, and allowing students to read it. And that was, 15 years ago. But then if you think about streetlights, when we start our practices, and allow students, man, to listen to scripture rather than reading it, with the hip hop beats and everything, man, on the background of it, it helps students, man, come into that and with that camera deal. And I'll say this, man, with any person, any men that are going to work with me, I'm at a place now that I just watched the interview with Jason Wilson. He was on All the Smoke with Matt Barnes and Jack, and his ability to continue to bring those men back to what Scripture says about manhood, to bring them back to what Scripture says about emotional management, maturity and development. Man, was a to me a 400 level course of how to engage men who say they want to be better. And so if we're working with coaches, if we're working with fathers, that's something I always try to do, big brothers and uncles, that we should at some way learn to present a higher, mature and spiritual aspect of manhood, and see where it goes. And most of the men that I've run into, they accept the challenge, but also if they don't accept the challenge, in their rejection, they're walking away thinking about what we talked about while we did as men.
That's good. That's good. Thank you, brother. A lot of great things you shared in that book from Jason Wilson, The Man, the Moment Demands. Powerful, powerful. Jason Curry, saw your hand raised. Or did we lose Jason?
Yeah, I'm here, Nobles. Yeah, and I heard you mention FCA, which triggered me to think about, I'm sure you're familiar with this, is the core.
Yep.
Man, I love that. Which is an 8-session tool that empowers coaches and athletes to engage and equip others to know and grow in Christ. And I've not only used that with coaches and student athletes, but also with parents, with referees. I mean, I take that with me. And the thing I like about it, which is kind of similar to what William was talking about, is it provides a structure, but then it's so conversational that allows you to just be in this space and whatever the real need or the heart of the people within that perspective and within that respective group that needs to be addressed, it gives you the ability to do a deep dive in that. But I'm a big fan of the core.
Absolutely. Yep. Great resource. I'll share a few as well, and then I'll toss it over to Erin so we can get to our next question here. With FCA, well, let me back up a little bit. I think for all of us that do any type of work with youth, it doesn't even have to be just youth in athletics, but just youth in general. I'm of the mindset you can't speak life into people until you've done life with people, right? You need to understand the heart of who it is that you're dealing with. The old adage, people don't care how much you know till they know how much you care. And so with FCA, we have a tool called E3, which stands for Engage, Equip, and Empower. And so this is our discipleship curriculum. And I'll certainly make this available to Stephanie. It's about a 60-minute online course that you can take that literally teaches you. And once you learn it, you can train it to other people on your staff, lay people at your church on how to engage with the gospel, how to equip people with the gospel, and how to empower them to share their faith in order to make disciples that make disciples. We do this with all of our young athletes in middle school. So as they're matriculating into high school, they can take their faith with them and share it with their high school peers as well. So happy to make that available. The core, as Jason mentioned, that's all found on our FCA website as well. So with
And
that,
let me say, Nobles, let me say this too.
Yep.
I'm familiar with FCA, the FCA tools, that E3 curriculum that he's talking about. The part that he didn't mention, and the part that I actually appreciate about FCA, in my experience with them, is it's heavy. It hits heavy from the sports side of things as well, right? There's a lot of cheesy, we're having a candid conversation here. There's a lot of cheesy material in any sector that you go with, right? When you're trying to contextualize the kingdom of God into different, networks or contexts. But FCA has done a really good job of being very overt and very clear and concise about the gospel message with, some pretty conservative stances. But they don't lose the edge, the competitiveness that really helps speak the language for many people in sports and athletics, right? I can't tell you how many times coaches, athletes, whomever, they'll stiff arm some of these approaches because it's like, man, you don't really understand what it takes to be a high level competitor. So it's really hard for me to really reconcile with whatever it is you're trying to say. But FCA and this particular curriculum that he's talking about, they really introduce coaches, athletes, whomever, with that real tension of here's how you reckon with being a high level competitor, but also having a purpose and a meaning that's greater than, whatever your sport is. So.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris. And I did just drop the link in the chat. So everything he's sharing, you can find that there. Erin, I'll toss it over to you now.
Yeah, I just had two that we've used here with City Life, especially because a lot of our programs are volunteer led, thank God, but they don't maybe always feel equipped enough to be like, I don't know if I can lead a small group and coach, right? So for me, I like scripts, I like things written down, I like videos, I like things that are hands-on for my students. I feel like a lot of our students are very visual learners, so this helps. But I know DVULI, we all have access to Right Now Media, so there's a lot of resources there. UIWI, the Urban Youth Institute, Urban Youth Workers Institute, has a lot of resources, not necessarily for sports, but like just manhood and womanhood, just like pouring into our youth. They have a lot of toolkits that have like scripts and curriculums and things like that has helped navigate some really important conversations that our volunteers feel like really it's very easy for them to move and navigate through. And then the other one, we were just brought to my organization. I don't know if anybody's heard Topeko, which is the only person you cheat is yourself. And so they have a whole curriculum. Actually, they've used it for adults and students. They are actually just rolling out the youth one, but it's all about leadership. A lot of we see our students who are on the fields or on the courts, they exude all of that, but they don't know that, they don't see that in themselves. And so this has been a great way for them to like take care and grow in their leadership abilities and lead those conversations that we've been able to have. So I just want to share those 3 things with you as well. But this also transitions into, for our students, but even for you all, like, are there any professional developments that you all have either been to, like a conference or seminars, that should be on everybody's radar, that especially that lead in the sports ministry world, or even just for discipleship, growth? If anybody has any really good ones you've been to or attended, or Jason, you have yourself unmuted.
Yeah, the Christians Working in Sports Conference. Absolutely amazing. Amazing. So this July will be their 3rd conference. The first 2 years it was in Minnesota. This year it'll be in Atlanta. It's really designed so they kind of let me sneak in the first year, but it's really designed specifically for Christians who work in the space of professional or collegiate sports. So at that time, I was able to backdoor my way in because I was doing some television work for Manhattan College, in addition to some of the other things that I do. But for anybody who's in this space of working in any capacity in professional or collegiate sports, Christians, you can look it up. I'll put a link in the chat as well. But Christians Working in Sports Conference is absolutely amazing.
Thanks for that, Jason. Anybody else?
While that's on everybody's mind, anybody who emails me a reason why they think they should go to that conference, look into it, shoot me an email, and we'll talk about sponsorship on behalf of the Deval Servant Leadership Initiative, okay? But you got to send me an email and tell me why you think it would benefit the work you do. And I'm not going to, well, I'll put my email address in the chat so that way everybody has access to it. But for those that want to go to the conference, shoot me an email as to why you think it can benefit your work working with young people in sports, and we'll talk scholarships to the conference.
That's an amazing opportunity. Thank you so much, Gerald, for that. Anyone else, any other seminars, and maybe not even related to sports, but maybe even discipleship one, especially for those where you're just talking about for our volunteers, our leaders that need to be poured into as well. Anyone have anything like that?
I'll just reinforce this while it's quiet, and that is the Right Now media accounts that everybody should have been given. If for whatever reason you feel like you lost your password or don't know what we're talking about, or we did it after you went through the program, shoot me an email as well. We'll make sure that you are enrolled in Right Now Media. That is fully complimentary, but that place is loaded with resources to take advantage of when it comes to discipleship and working with young people. All right, we got you covered on that as well.
I think another good resource is Urban, which is connected with DeVos. They're a partner of DeVos, as many may know, but some may not. To tap into Urban Youth Workers Institute, they do a lot of good comprehensive. It's more like mindset stuff, more general. Like for instance, like how do I start a program or an organization that's based around sports, right? And maybe not just starting a sports ministry. Like how do I actually start a sports business? How do I start a nonprofit or a business, a for-profit business, and helping you think through what that lane is that you express your ministry through, but it's through business, right? Where you can then hire staff, you can hire coaches who can then be disseminated out into some of these schools and things like that. So anyway, Urban Youth Workers Institute, just to kind of help think through frameworks for how we get into these spaces to do the work.
I echo that, Chris. Actually, a few years ago, we got to attend with some of our young students. We call them Leaders in Training, LITs. We took a group about 12 to the one in LA, and it was phenomenal for them to see their growth as leaders and under different realms, pouring in as just young believers, and then they got to see people like them lead from the stage, lead these breakouts, lead these seminars, and then they came back on fire, ready to go, like starting sports. Then one started a garden. You know, they were pouring into this to the younger kids that we were working with. So it was a phenomenal conference. So just if anybody ever gets a chance to go when they bring those back, I definitely echo that. Jonathan, you had your hand up?
Yes, hi, good afternoon. I was just going to add Reframe Youth has great information for curriculum, and it's content that reflects a lot of the young people that we look like. I know many of us do work in Black and Brown communities, so their content is excellent. I am not a paid representative of Reframe, so this is just genuine. Like I like it, and I think most of the people, all of us on this call, would enjoy checking it out. I'm going to drop it in the chat. Yeah, I think they've come from a great lens of culturally relevant, and for the times as well. So, and it's not as was earlier mentioned, it's not cheesy where they're inserting random slang to connect that just sounds completely off, and doesn't connect with our youth, doesn't connect with the gospel, doesn't connect with their context. So I'm going to drop that in the chat. Oh, Will's already on it. Shout out.
Do it. So, but thank you. Yeah, that's a great resource. Thank you, Jonathan.
And that resource is curated by DVULI alumni. And several of the writers for that curriculum are DVULI alumni, me being one.
Awesome. Will, do you have any other, I know you've been around for a while, any other resources like seminars or other professional developments that you would encourage people to attend?
There's a lot out there. Legacy Conference has always been good. You can get around a lot of good leaders through the Legacy Conference, and I know that's regional, so depending on where you live, you can get that information. Also, the Youth Pastor Summit, I know that seems like it's more for youth pastors, but they've got some really good research some good programming, and it's good. I think someone mentioned earlier, I think we can, in our silos of seeing things, we'll figure like, okay, this is the only way it can be done. And so I always encourage people to see a space that's completely different from yours, not to make it a comparison thing. But I think we all have grown up in families where they had this meal called goulash, or some have called it like there are different names of what it is. You just take different items and you make it work in your house. Well, succotash, that's what it was. I don't cook outside of breakfast. And even that's like and anyway, like you go to some spaces that are completely different from yours, where the people don't look like you at all. And there's a great pastor in Houston. He says, if you got eyes, plagiarize. Like, find a way to make it work for your context. Instead of complaining about it not being written for your context, find a way to make it work for your context, and then create a way so that other leaders in your community can eat off of it as well.
Can I ride that real quick? Another, I think we as Christian leaders, as kingdom workers, we can get so caught up on like the biblical side of things, which I think is good, but go and do what Jesus also told us to do, and get into more to Will's point too. It's like, as coach, if we want to talk about sports and athletics, get into that, right? Consider going through like a legitimate coaching certification that could be secular. Like, it has nothing to do with kingdom stuff, right? Go and learn how to be a coach of a particular sport. If it's in strength and conditioning, if it's in athletic training, like there's a variety of things. Figure out where the high school coaches are, how to like learn their story about like, how did you get into coaching? Where was your training and background? So now, because then that gives you some more language, and actually it might give you some answers to how you can then, that you can plagiarize. I think that's why that came to my mind, what Will said, right? You have eyes to go and plagiarize some of the things that these traditional sport coaches are doing to prepare themselves to try to lead their team. And you'll see that a lot of times you're going to have common vision. So then it allows you to come and really bolster the coaches that want to do this work. And it's hard for them to do it by themselves, but it also enhances the work that they get to do with these student athletes and these youth athletes.
And if you're trying to get on campuses, I would say stop gravitating towards the power sports like football and basketball. And if you're looking for an in on a campus, go support one of the other lesser popular sports. Like go support the swim team, go support some, and not that those sports aren't as great, but by getting in, there's your in into the campus. There's your in onto doing things. Cause that coach will be like, man, don't nobody come see us. You come
Thank
support
you for
them.
dignifying us. Yes.
Yeah. And so now, and then that coach will then pretty much rally for you to do the other coach stuff. They were like, hey, this guy's really legit, came through, been super
Bingo.
cool with our kids. And you might want to consider hollering at them. I'm saying that because I did it, and trust me, you sit through a couple of swim meets, man, they think that you're the coolest thing ever.
Just come with a water bottle because you'll be hot.
Yeah, you're gonna be out and you're gonna sit there or track meet. Go sit at a track meet for a full day. You'll meet a lot of parents and a lot of teammates. And okay, this last thing I'll say is in posting, I post videos from going to see the kids, and those get way more views than me speaking to the kids. And so you go there and you support those kids. The parents see that you support those kids. They're like, oh, this person's really here for the kids. And there's another end for you to have access to those campuses.
Thank you, Will. Thank you, Chris. I really appreciate the insight because, I mean, yeah, a lot of us think, oh, we need to be as well, not just versed in our word, but also just to be able to communicate with these teams and having access and coaching and stuff. So they need to see, because they respect the players that know how to play, right? So, and know their stuff. So that's really important. So, was there anybody else that wanted to share any other resources or ideas? I just wanted to include, like, I mean, I heard there's some camps, like sports camps, obviously around areas. Like I know when I was a kid, there was like local YMCA had sports camps and things like that. So maybe even getting your teens into that, or exploring what a partnership could look like. I mean, we've talked about in DVULI leveraging our relationships, maybe just encouraging, just thinking outside the box or asking around. Theron, you had your hand up?
I did. I just wanted to, when I heard my brother talking about showing up at games and being present, uh, you know, trying to make do contact work and to earn my way into schools that are new to me. I really live for the question now, who are you here for? When you go hang out in the bleachers, Shawnee High School is a school that is a community school for me. I have no children in our school system. My youngest is 23 this year, and so the work that I do, a lot of parents are trying to match me with a kid on the field, on the court. And so when they asked me that question, I said, and I'm here to be supportive. Outside, I'm just a community person. I'm here to be supportive of the students in the school. But then there comes a time, and I'll never forget, a kid named Puff. He's one of the athletic kids on the baseball team. The baseball team probably averages between 3 to 10 people in attendance. That's including parents. When me and some of my friends started showing up at the game, when I said to him, "Hey man, I appreciate watching you play," and I didn't know he noticed. He said, "Man, I appreciate you coming to our games," and it turned my heart because I didn't know that they noticed, right? And so when you talk about social media, posting information about games, it brought about for us, this school, which is a school that is not supported by many churches or community members. When we posted on social media, all of a sudden, I started seeing local pastors start they started posting stuff, and I started seeing them at games, and they were making sure that they were posting, and we began to, and then like, and I'll end after this. Some of my childhood friends who knew that I'm not an alum of some of these schools that I attend, they began to come because they were actual graduates of the school, and they recognized that they were not attending nor supporting. And so when you put that stuff out there with social media, just tag it, man, with an invite to people you know. And man, those kids love the fact, because we didn't know any of those kids. We just came to shout for Shawnee, and we were screaming and yelling for Shawnee, and they were looking like, you know, man, is that your dad? Is that your-" They were like, nah, I don't know that dude. And it really made a difference, especially for those of us who are serving in areas that the kids flat out know that they're not being supported, man. When you're an athlete and there's nobody in the bleachers, you hear it, man, when somebody's screaming for you. So I just want to say that because that has been a way that we have now been embraced by the school because of just showing up, man. Just showing.
Absolutely. It's so important for our kids to just be seen and be supported. Jonathan, did you have your hand up again? I'm sorry, I didn't want to miss you.
Sorry, yes, I just add one more resource, and it kind of ties into a couple of points I recently made. I am a huge baseball fan, and those, as Deron said, sometimes the baseball games have the least amount of people attending. But RBI, which is the youth division of Major League Baseball, they are kind of quietly looking to partner with churches because they have seen the need to bring baseball back, particularly to Black churches, because of, well, the recent celebration of the anniversary of the start of the Negro Leagues 2 years ago, and then just the lower rates of Black players that are stars in Major League Baseball. So my church in Queens, New York, we've had a number of community events where they give out great information, and not only great information, great gloves, bats, baseballs. Depending on the team that's in your city, you can have the mascot come out. But every team is a little bit different. We're in New York, and the Mets are more active than the Yankees. That's no shade to anyone who's a Yankee fan. That's just the reality of what the team contributes. But if you look at RBI, which is also connected with Nike, there's great resources to help you be a better coach on a number of spaces. And I don't want to take away, I'm sure he might want to mention it, but Junior MBA is also a great resource for coaches. I'll put both of those links in the chat. So as was mentioned a little bit earlier about stepping out of our kind of ministry context to connect for the necessary training to be equipped on both sides. And great resources for your church and community or parachurch.
Thank you, Jonathan.
All right. We are right at the top of the hour, and our call is intended to be a 16-minute conversation. Before we sign off, I do want to do a couple of quick shout outs here real quick. Speaking of Major League Baseball, good to have Buki Gates in from Seattle with us as well today, and good to see you, sir. Also, another shout out I want to give. I'm going to do it this way, in the spirit of generosity and ensuring that you all are resourced, because the Devolve Servant Leadership Initiative exists to ensure that leaders such as you have the right tools in your hands. We want to make sure that you are equipped on an ongoing basis. Our youth need you healthy. Our youth need you wise, smart, intelligent, equipped, strong at what you do. While you might come with certain passion and background and experience of being on the playing field, the call of God on your life is such that you could burn out over time if you're not careful. So as much as possible, we want to continue to ensure that you all are resourcing each other as well. On that note, shoot me an email with your address, and I'll make sure that everybody gets a complimentary copy of Latasha's book. And that way you can continue to be resources. If I don't get an email from you in the next 5 business days, don't worry about it. Pick it up on your own. Go to Amazon and click it, all right?
Sorry to interrupt, man. Buy that book. Buy that book.
I got it right. So, but if you don't get to me in the next 5 business days, it's coming out of your pocket as opposed to mine. All right.
As a reminder, Gerald, I'm going to be sending out a resource list as well as a recording to this conversation probably Monday or Tuesday, which is within that 5 days. So I will also accept a response on behalf of Gerald.
You got it. All right.
Gerald, do we get to hear what Chris actually won his Olympic gold medal?
I'm sorry, yeah, he's being a little humble, but Chris is. I'll let you give it. Yeah, I won't steal your thunder.
All right, man, ain't no thunder. I got to bounce, but so I'm glad you called me before I was about to hop off. What y'all want to know? I've been to 2 Olympic Games. I went to Tokyo in 2021 with the men's water polo team, which is a predominantly white sport. that could be a conversation, like that could be a conversation for another time. And then I went to Paris in 2024, which we won the bronze medal in that competition. So yeah, I'm the sports medicine manager for the team. My background and my trade is a certified athletic trainer and a certified strength and conditioning specialist. So yeah.
Oh.
The man knows his stuff. In fact, when he went through as a participant, I used to lean on him in the gyms at the workshops a lot. And so I'm in the shape I'm in because of him in so many ways. Thank you for jumping on, Chris. Good to have you, brother. Jeff, good to see you on the call as well, man. Always a blessing to have DC represented, and so many others. Again, we're just so grateful and thankful for the opportunity to have this kind of conversation. We will do this again. We'll figure out other ways to resource you all as well, and to continue for you guys to be a blessing to each other one way or another as alumni. If it had it my way, we'd all be together on a weekend retreat somewhere, chopping it up in DVULI style. But we'll get there eventually. All right. Good note. On that note, I'm just going to pray out real quick. Hey, Stephanie, when is the next month we're having a conversation on what?
Next month, we're having a conversation on gang intervention.
Gang intervention. All right. What day of the month is that in May?
So, wow, you're putting me on the spot here, Gerald.
The third, yeah, it will be promoted. Yeah.
It's it will be, I will include that in my email to all of you on Monday or Tuesday. How about that? Can we do that? No, we look forward to, these will also be posted on our socials as well as on the website.
Excellent, excellent. All right. Again, thanks, Nobles. Thanks, Erin. Thanks, Latasha, for joining also. And let me just pray a quick blessing over everybody. Father, we thank you for this opportunity for us to share in this